Hi, I'm Annette Benson, and I serve as the Senior Public Relations Consultant for the Center for Intercultural Learning, Mentorship, Assessment, and Research, CILMAR, at Purdue University, and I also serve as the manager of the Intercultural Learning Hub, HubICL, the HubICL. Today I'd like to give you a virtual tour of the HubICL. We're calling it the COVID-19 edition because all of the examples that I'm going to use will be for things that might be of use to you during this special time of pandemic. So first of all, what is the HubICL? It is an online space in which to collaborate on ICL projects. It also includes an interactive toolbox of experiential and reflection tools, media, assessments, and curricula. And it also has a repository of intercultural research. It's very simple to create an account. All you have to do is go to hubicl.org/register, answer a few questions, and you'll have a free account of your own. So the HubICL is a gift to the world from Purdue University. There is no cost to use the Hub, so don't be afraid to go ahead and create your own account. For the techies among us, the Intercultural Learning Hub was built on a Science Gateway platform by the HubZero team. It was built on a library model so that you can use what you find, contribute what you have. It costs absolutely nothing to either use it or contribute, so please go ahead and make your account. We did name it the Intercultural Learning Hub, and in the beginning only intercultural learning tools, experiential tools, assessments, and research were included. But within the last 2 years since it was started, we also have begun to include global learning and diversity, equity, and inclusion materials in the Hub. So first of all, let's look at the toolbox. To get there, you simply go to HubICL and then Discover, and then down to the digital toolbox, or you can get there by going to hubicl.org/toolbox. In the toolbox, well, when I made this PowerPoint, I would say there were over 500. Now I would say there are over 650 tools in the toolbox. It's growing quickly. So in order to use the toolbox, we wanted it to be searchable. And so the first thing you'll want to do is to go down here and work from the bottom to the top. That would be best practice, to start with your learning outcomes and then work up. So let's start with what the learning outcomes are. They are all from the AAC&U rubric for intercultural knowledge and competence, and they include self-awareness, openness, communication, empathy, curiosity, and worldview frameworks. This is called our simple search. If you did an advanced search, you also could search everything that's in the original menu, but also if you knew the where the students are in your class on the intercultural development continuum, you also could search the stage-based pedagogy, as well as additional skills such as friendship, teamwork, mentorship and leadership, DEI, and emotional resilience. Some of you may know the name of a tool, though, that you're already looking for. You just want the instructions and you want to see what it is we have to say about it. If that's so, all you have to do is put the name of the tool in the search by name. So let's pretend that in this COVID-19 time that we have students who are working around the world and we want them to get to know one another in pairs, in a Zoom room, in chat, somewhere where they're going to post. And so we offer this exercise that has 25 questions that go underneath the surface for people to get to know one another. So if you put 25 questions in the search by name, what will you see when the search results come up? Well, some of this should look relatively familiar to you. The subgroup size for this one is pairs. That came from the menu. The duration is 1 hour. The external cost, nothing. But then there's additional things in here, such as where did this tool come from? Who first wrote it? Does it have a lesson plan with it? Does it have downloads, links? What materials do I need? All these things are included in these tabs here. Every tool comes with learning objectives that have been written according to Bloom's taxonomy. So for 25 questions, there's the objectives would be, as a result of this activity, participants will be able to express life experiences and intellectual emotional positions, and 2, develop deeper connections with teammates through sharing answers to questions that evoke these experiences and positions. And if you clicked the lesson plan icon, you would get a lesson plan that looks like this, that includes everything that was in all the previous tabs and all the previous sections. So moving on past the toolbox, there's also a part that is just one of my favorites called collections. It's somewhat like being an intercultural Pinterest user whenever you get in there. And so if you were to click collections and you were logged in, you would see that there are many, many collections to choose from in there, or you could choose to put your own collection in. So what is a collection in the Intercultural Learning Hub? Well, as I said, I'm going to show you some that are applicable, especially for COVID-19. We're going to actually open this one in a second because it is the one that's had the most hits. It's the one that's most popular. But also within there, there's research on intercultural learning that might be of use right now because it's about virtual intercultural learning. Ideas for virtual exchange and summer 2020 ideas and resources. This needs to be updated now. Someone told me that they took my collection of domestic and international responses to COVID-19 and actually assigned it to students to talk about how people around the world have been responding to COVID-19. There's a collection in there called Tools for Distance Learning that takes tools that are usually done in the classroom live and gives recommendations for how you might use them in a distance learning environment. And then this one is similar to this one in that it tells you instructions for how things might be used in the COIL or virtual exchange environment. But going back here to online intercultural learning curriculum resources, if we were to open this up, what we would find are the AFS Global Competence Certificate with a link directly there, 3 MOOCs that you could assign to participants or students that they can do on their own about cultural intelligence, diversity and inclusion, intercultural competence. There is a collection made from a forum on education abroad that was early in the pandemic, responding to COVID-19 for virtual exchange. And then here's one on assessments for online learning, and another one that has items from Florida International University. So I told you this is one of my favorite things. There's so many times when I think, oh, I wish I had saved that. Well, in the hub, if you save it in a collection, you know where it is. But not only that, you can share a collection like this with only one URL. Next, let's just take a minute to look at what the research repository has to offer us during pandemic. We have been running a webinar all summer, and this particular webinar included professors from Purdue who tell how they have embedded intercultural learning into their study abroad, how they embedded it into their classroom after their study abroad got canceled. Also, there's not only from science and from SLHS, there's also one in there from the Purdue Polytechnic, which is Purdue's College of Technology. And there's also one in there from our Italian professors on how they're embedding intercultural learning into the world language classroom. Finally, I would like for you to know about tags because if you'll remember in the beginning, in that left-hand menu, there were only 6 ways that you could search for the learning objectives, learning outcomes. But if you search in tags, there are hundreds of tags. And in this way, you can see what is in the hub for a myriad of different topics. So, for example, if we go to tags, You can search here in the search box, and I put in COVID-19 just to see what all was in there. Now down underneath here is a big long list of 122 items. I didn't really have room on my screen to show you all of them, but what that amounts to is that there's 2 resources that have been tagged as COVID-19, 2 presentations, 118 times it's been mentioned in collections, and twice it's been mentioned in the Toolbox tools. So if you were to do this search, then you could go down to all the live links underneath all categories and actually see these presentations, collections, and Toolbox tools that have been tagged in that way. So as we close this out, I'd like to ask you, what would you like to share with your colleagues? You can contribute to the Toolbox, to the collections, to the research repository. You can do that. It's very self-explanatory, but if you need more help, I'm happy to help you at Cilmar, C-I-L-M-A-R, at purdue.edu. Happy hubbing.